It is certainly nicer waking up this Friday morning versus last Friday morning. Would we all agree? Thank goodness Michael is out of our way and out of our hair. My name is Melody Moore, and I'm with the Triad Business Journal. I am a lifelong resident of Rockingham County and proud to call it home. Thank you for joining us this morning to discuss the state of Rockingham County, the successes, the challenges, and the opportunities ahead. I'd like to take a moment to thank our partners, Rockingham County Center for Economic Development, for hosting the space and providing breakfast. Jan and Betsy, thank you. And to Rockingham Community College for providing AV. Dr. Kinlaw and Josh, thanks to you. Also, thank you to Cone Health, presenting sponsor, who has been instrumental in sponsoring a series of panel discussions across the Triad. Joining us this morning is Stokes Ann Hunt, Director of Community Outreach and Foundation for Annie Penn Hospital. Stokes Ann, can you come up and share a few words, please?
So thank you, Melody. We go way back. Yes. I'm also was born in Rockingham County and have raised my family here. So I work for Annie Penn Hospital with community outreach in the foundation and physician or provider recruiting. And Annie Penn Hospital has been in Rockingham County for over 88 years, and we partner with other healthcare providers in this county to give the highest quality health care and exceptional health care to our residents and the surrounding areas. So I would like to thank our three panel members for taking their time to come and discuss the challenges that we have here in Rockingham County and looking at the opportunities that we have ahead. And also all of you as community members who will come out, listen to this discussion, and openly discuss what our challenges are and hopefully look for new ways to address those. Annie Penn goes far beyond the walls of our hospital, and we do community health fairs, we do employer health fairs, we have some health services, our employee health and wellness in the back of the room, so please feel free to talk with these ladies before you leave today. And we are trying to address access to care in Rockingham County. We have a graying population of physicians. I was just with Dana Weston Tuesday at a meeting, and we've talked about over 50% of our physicians are over the age of 57. So we know we will need primary care homes in the future. Annie Penn has two primary care physicians, family medicine, Dr. Sue Nelson and Dr. Rachel Hagler, who have just started, and Dr. Lindsay Bridges, who is a general surgeon. So it is slow because it's harder to recruit to a rural area, but we are working hard at that, and we will continue to do that for the residents in this area. So thank you all again for coming today and listening to our panel and helping us look at our bright new future here in Rockingham County. Thank you.
Thank you, Stokes Ann. We couldn't do this without all of you here. So again, thank you. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our editor, Lloyd Whittington for Triad Business Journal, who will lead today's discussion.
Thank you, Mel. And I'd like to thank you, Rockingham County business leaders, for being here for an important conversation. We're going to be talking today about how Rockingham County is faring in terms of economic development, jobs, and workforce readiness. We're going to look at what's working, what are some things we might be able to do to continue to strengthen the county and its outlook. Before we begin the panel discussion, I'd like to introduce Jan Kreitz Yoakley. She's no stranger to this area. She's a lifelong Triad resident, but she's been leading Rockingham County economic development for the past 4 years. I do believe there's been a name change since a year ago. So, Jan, would you come set the stage for us?
Good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh, it's so great to see everybody here. I'm just turning this down a little bit. I'm short. Welcome, and I think Lloyd gave me 3 minutes, so I'm going to go really fast, and happy to be fast. First thing I just want to highlight, it's hot off the press and the printer, is our annual report for fiscal year 2017-2018, and it is in the back. Please get one of these. This is our bragging book, and although Lloyd has asked me to not brag so much this morning, which will be hard since I'm a sales and marketing person. So I'm just going to outline and kind of start this out and tee off some facts about Rockingham County, and then turn it back over to Lloyd. So looking at our challenges this morning, I'll just give you these facts. 2017 population is 90,949. What that means is we've had a decrease, 2.4% decline in population. Our median household income is currently at $40,003. That is a 4.92% growth. Our median property value right now is $107,200. Our labor force data as of August 2018 says we have 42,479 in our labor force. That's 56.8% participation rate, and that's who's actually participating in the workforce. Our unemployment rate for August was 4.4, for September 4.3, and we all know that full employment's 5%, so everything's going pretty well. We'll start out with the negative, give you the positive. 2017-2018 layoffs totaled 358 and included 4 industries: Ball, WEC, TMD, SGR Techs, and Commonwealth Brands. And then in 2017-2018 we had 8 announcements, resulting in $60 million in net new capital investment and 422 net new jobs. So our industry snapshot is steel manufacturing is the largest industry sector, employing 5,635 workers. Retail, second, 3,975, followed by healthcare, which is 3,235. And so you just should know, over the next year, the fastest growing sector is healthcare support occupations. So this is my little part of the program, and I'll turn it back over to Lloyd.
Thanks, Jan. I appreciate that. And that's a good report. I mean, you're creating more jobs than you're losing. There's appreciation, income, so forth. So, again, things are moving in the right direction. We want to dig a little deeper today, kind of talk about, again, where are we? Where can we go? What can we do to ratchet things up and continue to grow and improve? And to help us today, we have a great panel. It's my privilege to introduce them. First, I'm going to introduce Mike Doherty. He's the Economic Development Director for the City of Eden, a post he's held since 2002. He grew up outside of Philadelphia and had a diverse career path before entering economic development. At one point, he was the practice manager for a medical practice in High Point, and another was the regional sales director for a Fortune 500 food manufacturer, where he was responsible for 7 states and $100 million in annual revenues. Next, we have Nick Freitag. He is the vice president for distribution for Gildan, a $3 billion international apparel company. He oversees 8 facilities that collectively employ almost 900 people. He's a native of Baltimore. He spent the past 34 years of his 46-year career in the supply chain and logistics field. He's bounced around between Alabama, Georgia, Florida, New York, and Pennsylvania, but he's now on his 3rd tour of duty in North Carolina, which he calls his adopted home. And I believe it was an assignment in 1974 that brought him to the state for the first time to Albemarle, and then he returned to the state from 1984 to 2002 during a series of roles in Mount Airy. And then he returned from North Carolina from Alabama, I believe, in 2008 to join Gildan in Eden.
That's right.
All right, and next is Mark Kinlaw, the president of Rockingham Community College. He's a native of Lumberton, and he joined RCC as president in January 2015. Prior to that, he spent 17 years with Robeson County Community College, starting as the director of planning and research and rising to the post of vice president, a post that he held for 14 years, I believe. So while our panelists are the stars today, you our audience are also a big part. We want you to have a role. We're going to open up for questions towards the end. I hope you'll take notes as we progress of some questions that you'd like to ask when we kind of open it up for questions at the end. And to get started, I'd like to start where Jan left off, and that's on the economic development front. And I'm going to start with Mike on this one, on an effort this I think is pretty important to continuing to move the ball forward, and that is the planned purchase of about 204 acres of industrial land from Duke by Eden and the county. So where is that land, and kind of where do things stand right now?
It's on New Street, which is where there were two former Fieldcrest facilities. Now Wild McLean is in one, and Gildan has leased the other one. So there's actually two sites that are right next to each other. One is 214 acres. The one we purchased is 204. We're working through with Duke Energy to get that finalized. There's many different agencies that has to go through because it's a pretty complicated company, but we expect it should be finalized in about 30 days.
30 days. So that's moving along.
The purchase, yeah.
Okay. So what's the vision and timeline for how that might be deployed for economic development?
Well, Eden was a finalist for Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo data centers in the past, and because we have a lot of water resources, plus we're very close to that facility, the Duke facility, and there's been an uptick in data center projects lately, and we certainly would hope to land one of those or some other project as well. Beyond a 12.7 acre site, that's really the only site we had in Eden, so we needed something larger than that in order to accommodate a larger industry.
Okay. And what will determine if and when speculative industrial space might be developed in Eden or the county?
Well, we had someone here a couple of weeks ago and said if you don't have product, you don't get a project. So it's very important. One of the issues with really the whole Piedmont Triad in the past has been that there was just not enough product, not enough buildings, especially in the 50,000 square foot to 100,000 square foot range. We have a 12.7 acre site in the Eden Industrial Center right next to Loperex, which they came in 1993 via a shell building, and then Inofa, which came via a shell building as well. We certainly would like to propose to do a 50,000 square foot building there, expandable to 100,000 square feet. I think Jan ran the numbers. We get inquiries in from brokers and from the Department of Commerce, and the vast majority of those in the last 2 or 3 years have been for 50,000 square feet and up. When you do a shell building, a spec building, you get prospects. I mean, you get looks there, and we've looked at other counties, and out in Wilson, they're on their 7th project right now, and they have some people look at one shell building, and then they may decide to build on their own. So it really is a catalyst for economic development. If you don't have a building, you don't get a look.
And how interested is the private development community in partnering?
We had about 4 or 5 proposals. We have one right now that we're looking at. We would like to propose to our city council as well as the county commissioners. And the way it's set up typically is, it isn't where you're liable immediately. They usually give you about 2 years' time to move the project. And then if it doesn't move, then you would have to pick up the cost of the debt service of that. But even the projects we had in Eden, it took less than 2 years for them to be filled, and certainly the way the economy is going right now, we suspect that it would be probably no more than 12 months before we would be able to have those filled with clients.
Okay. Nick, Gildan's been one of Rockingham County's success stories. Can you give us a snapshot of Gildan's presence in Eden right now and how that compares to when you got started?
Yeah, sure. Interesting to hear Mike's reference to if you don't have product, you can't really make a sale. That axiom applies to apparel and just about everything else. If we didn't have shirts on the shelf, we wouldn't generate any sales. So I can relate to that. Gildan, our presence today is we've got 2 facilities in Eden. Within Rockingham County, we have 2 facilities located in Eden. The one that the company owns that was begun in year 2000. And it was before my time. I was actually over in Mount Airy at the time, working for Russell Corporation. So I kind of grew up with Russell Corporation. And Gildan started in the year 2000 with a 300,000 square foot building. And we can get into the reasons why, but today that site on Meadow Road is now the home of one of the largest distribution centers in the country. We're a 1.2 million square foot high bay automated storage facility where we employ over 400 people working 4 shifts 24/7. Just a mile and a half away on New Street, near the site that Mike just spoke of, we're leasing the old Fieldcrest building. It's over 500,000 square feet. We have 100 people working over there 2 shifts a day. So that's the scope of the operation within Rockingham County today.
So that's 500 people up from probably what when they started in 2000?
In 2000, it was right about 100 people. And when I quote 500, I'm quoting just full-time Gildan employees. In addition to that, we have about 100 associates who are working through our partners, the temporary agencies such as Workforce. And they are not counted as Gildan employees. They hope to become Gildan employees through a succession of accomplishments and time. But we also employ that number of people, as well as we've got a lot of partners on site for security, transportation, janitorial, things like that.
Okay. So Eden is just part of Gildan's presence in the Triad, in the region, or Central North Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about the growth in Mocksville and Salisbury and how those operations intersect with what you do here in Eden?
Sure. Eden is the hub for our distribution operation, and I'm responsible for the distribution for Gildan in North America. I would say worldwide because the majority of our business starts here, but I'm not responsible for the facilities that we do have in Asia and elsewhere. But how it fits in with what we're doing in Salisbury and Mocksville, that is where our yarn manufacturing takes place. And so the company has invested, I believe it was, here we invested $80 million in the facility in Eden, and then another couple of million upgrading over on New Street. The company has invested, and I'm sorry, I make notes because I like to make sure I'm quoting the right numbers. The company's actually invested on the yarn side of the business because I am not responsible for that, but I can tell you that we've spent $420 million in the last 10 years on building state-of-the-art yarn spinning facilities. There are 3 of them, 2 in Salisbury and 1 in Mocksville. You can see the one in Mocksville right off of I-40 as you're heading west on your right. Those operations are converting American cotton into American-made yarn, and then our yarn is sent off into a manufacturing production cycle.
And then it comes back, the finished product comes back here?
Yes. The American cotton becomes American yarn. It gets exported to where knitting, dyeing, cutting, and sewing takes place in Central America, around the Caribbean basin, and then they all come back in through either the ports of South Florida or Wilmington. And then those goods they're what we call finished goods. They're blank T-shirts, boxed up, and they come in container load quantities. So when you see all these Crowley and Seaboard and those containers that are running up 220 and 29 and coming into Eden and coming out of Eden, they're servicing our business because all of what we make around the Caribbean all comes into Eden or Charleston, and it all comes in through Charlotte, and then we have to employ a lot of truckers to pick those products up. So
what's a good estimate or range of kind of wages when we look at those jobs that you employ in Eden? What a good ballpark idea of what you're paying?
Well, we don't start anybody below $10 an hour, and we have a wage scale that's commensurate with the skill levels and requirements for the jobs that will range up to $20 an hour. So I would say $10 to $20 an hour, and our average wage is somewhere around 15.
15. Okay. So what's limiting if and how quickly Gildan can continue to grow here in Rockingham County?
Well, of course, the growth is dependent upon the demand and the sales. And so, we can't just create jobs. Jobs get created by the demand for our products. So as I would tell you the factors that are within our control are we've got to continue to produce quality product at a price, and it has to be product that the mass markets want. Assuming all those things are done, then the only constraint that we have from a distribution standpoint is labor. And that has been a challenge for us this past year. I will tell you that, we recently, within this past year, we raised our minimum starting wage to the $10 mark. It was below that, but because of the numbers that Jan cited, everybody's out there competing for labor, and it's a difficult sell, especially with the younger generation now is not coming out of school thinking that we would like to work in a distribution center. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks don't know what we do inside those four walls, and we open up our operations to the teachers and the students from the high school and work with our partners at the community college. We try to let them know that, this may not be your father's warehouse. There's technology employed within our four walls. We need computer experts. We need skilled technicians. We need people that can operate and maintain automation. There are a lot of different dimensions. It's not, but yes, there are jobs where you unload trucks and you load trucks, but it's not exactly. It's not the old context of a mill. It's not a dye house. We're a distribution operation. It's very clean, and it's very well conditioned, and it's very high tech in a lot of ways. Everything functions off of radio frequency scanning barcodes. Mm-hmm. So it's a different world in distribution today. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to turn here to Mark, and because one of the biggest things that's again impacting employers is the workforce. Is labor, is workforce readiness. And there was a pretty important change that happened with the start of October in Rockingham County, and that was the implementation of a quarter-cent sales tax to benefit the community college. So how much is that tax expected to generate, and over what period of time?
Well, the tax, and I'd be remiss if I didn't start by saying a big thank you for all of you in here that helped with that effort. It was certainly a countywide effort. It was an effort where you had Republicans and Democrats sitting at the table fighting for the same thing, and it was a very important initiative that a lot of people worked very hard on. Mike probably worked on it as hard as anybody, and Jan and her team, and just so many other people. So from the college's standpoint, thank you. Our commissioners were willing to put it on the ballot. Lance for supporting it as our county manager. And so all of those funds, of course, the quarter-cent sales tax kicked in October the 1st. So all of those funds will come to the community college. And that is, I can't tell you how critical that is, not just now, but here's the unique thing about it. It will generate about $1.8 million per year minimum. We project growth. It could go up as much as $2 million, and who knows, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And I'll talk more as to how we're going to invest that whenever you want me to. But the importance of this is 15, 20 years from now, as you continue to have needs, the college is going to be able to have a steady flow of income that we can invest in making sure that we're state-of-the-art, that we support businesses like Gildan and others, but we've got to have a steady flow of income to be able to do that. State budgets are tight. Our college only gets about $450,000 a year in equipment, and if you go and buy a CNC machine, you have spent about a fourth of that already, and so that flow of income is critical to us. So about $2 million a year is what we're looking at to come come straight to the community college.
Okay. Obviously, those revenues will fund a number of different projects, but let's start with kind of the biggest one, and that's the Workforce Development Center. Can you talk a little bit about what it'll cost and how that'll benefit business and industry in this area? I
can. We are currently, the major investment of the quarter-cent sales tax will be a new Center for Workforce Development. And I think that's, first of all, it's a statement to the county that this is what the college is all about. It's about workforce training. We do a lot of things, but that's the core of what we should be doing as a community college. And so that investment, that's the primary investment. We're looking at probably a 40,000 to 45,000 square foot facility that will house our advanced manufacturing programs, house other types of programs that we feel like can serve our business and industry partners. Now, when I say advanced manufacturing, I'm talking about machining, welding, electrical systems, industrial systems, HVAC, those types of programs. Small Business Center, our customized training program that we work quite a bit with industry in our county, which is through those funds come through the state to us, and we're able to provide a lot of training to our business and industry partners free of charge to them. So that's a big initiative that we do a lot of customized training here at our college working in the county. So that's the primary investment. We have employed an architectural firm. We're in the process now of the state approving that firm. Once we have official approval, we'll announce who that is, but it is a firm out of Charlotte. We feel very good about them. They have done similar work in other community colleges. So that, to me, is a big investment for this county. It sends a statement about what we're trying to do. And so we'll have corporate meeting space there, corporate training space in that facility as well. So we're very excited about that. So the debt service of that will be about a 20-year debt service. And of course, once that debt service kicks in about 3 years, that will be the primary investment. That's where most of that quarter-cent sales tax will go. But as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, when that's paid off, then our facilities at that point will need refurbishing, updating, and so forth, so you'll have that flow of income to be able to do that. There's no strings attached to this. We can spend it on technology. We can spend it on equipment, those types of things to make sure that we're state-of-the-art. So that's the primary investment. We will invest in other things. We've got it's a constant effort to try to stay on top of the technology. Nick mentioned what he has in his facility. If you haven't toured that facility, you need to call him and make arrangements to go out there. It is fascinating. It is very high tech. It's a very clean environment, and that's the type of thing that we're going to try to promote as a community college, because our industry it's a lot different than it used to be. So. And of course, it leads to all kinds of issues for workforce, which we'll get into. But right. We're excited about the quarter-cent sales tax and what it can do for us.
Right. There is no sunset on the tax.
The only way it's a sunset is for you to put it back on the ballot and the voters vote to eliminate the tax. And
but that speaks to the stability of knowing you're going to have a revenue stream to cover.
That's the key to it. Yes.
Okay. So as you talk to employers in Rockingham County, what are the jobs they're having the hardest time filling right now?
I think it's across the board, and this isn't unique to Rockingham County. As president, and when I meet with the other presidents, we're talking about this constantly. We're right now in the middle of setting our priorities for this new long session of the General Assembly. So we will roll out those priorities in the next month. But it's all focused on workforce development. It's what we're trying to do and workforce initiative. But it's across the board. Just some examples. We did not fill our slots for our health science programs this year. We didn't fill all the slots because the applicant pool wasn't good enough to fill the slots. They're very competitive. So and the jobs are out there. Stokes Ann can tell you that in the health field. They are there, and they're very good jobs. But we've got to get a better applicant pool. We've got to get more students interested in health careers. That's one area. Welding is incredibly popular right now and in high demand, and we don't have enough space to accommodate all the demand that there is. So the new facility will help with that, but machining's another one. So it's across the board. I think I met with Chief Hassel, who's the police chief with Reidsville this week, and they're having trouble finding people for their areas. And so it's across the board with so many different sectors of business, and we've got to do a better job of filling those.
So it sounds like at least a fair number of those positions are skilled type jobs. So what can be done to kind of bridge the gap for those people who are unemployed and lack those skills in short order? What can be done to?
Well, that's going to be a process. And let me talk just a couple of things. Some of the jobs that we're trying to train for are high-tech jobs. They're high-paying jobs. They're your $25 an hour jobs. But my concern is, what about how do we help Nick? You know, how do we get people that are ready to work in his facility? Mm-hmm. And we've got to do a better job with that. There's an initiative right now, and I might as well go and explain this now because it will affect a lot of what I talk about. The community college system, thankfully, is getting ready to shift, and this is a really big deal. Historically, our system has been funded for students that are seeking a degree. They have always been funded at a higher level. In other words, if a student comes to us and they go into nursing, they go into criminal justice, they're seeking a degree. Those programs are funded at a certain level. The credit we get for that student is funded at a certain level. But what about that student that just wants to come back and improve their skill set, and they come over to us in continuing education? That student is we get less credit for that student from a funding standpoint than we do those that are seeking a degree. But some of those things that we teach on the continuing education side cost just as much as what we try to teach on the degree side. So we have argued for a long, long time to the General Assembly that a student is a student. Continuing ed, degree seeking, they need to be funded the same. So our General Assembly has really stepped up to the plate and has helped us there. We're at 88% of the continuing education student is 88% funded and not yet 100%. So we are very close to having parity. We think we can get that out of this next General Assembly long session. We're pretty certain they're going to support that. So why is that important? Well, what if I have a student that wants to get a welding degree and they want to get a diploma? Well, that student's going to come to us because it's a degree. They're going to have to take English. They're going to have to take a social science. They're going to have to take a humanities, those types of courses, because accreditation drives that. But what if I've got a student that's not interested in that? Maybe that student's 30 years old and is working but wants to come back and improve their skill set, change their career, and they don't have time to seek a degree. They don't have the resources to seek a degree, and they just want to learn how to weld. They want to get certified and become a welder, or maybe they want to be an electrician. Well, now that once that parity is there, now there's equal funding. Now I can pay the instructor on that side the same that I can pay it on the degree side. That is a huge deal for us because we get students that come to us. They're not seeking; they just want a skill set. They want to learn a skill that they can go out and work. And so those are some types of jobs that we've got to help as well. But for Nick and his folks, we've got to be able to produce students that are ready to go to work, that are willing to work, that are dependable, that will show up to work on time, that can work in a team setting, and that becomes your soft skills issues. And we've got to get better at all of that. So it's across the board with the workforce from what I'm hearing. It's the higher paying jobs, it's the $10 to $20 hour jobs, but we've got, as a college, we've got to figure out how to come in and help Gildan and Loperex and some of the others out there, Unify and the others that we have here, of changing that. The parity funding will make a big difference because what you're going to see across our community college system, instead of just starting programs on the degree side, we're going to start programs on the continuing education side. And that's a huge step forward to us being a lot more flexible and being able to start and stop programs a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that makes sense to you, but that's what we've argued for, that I think we can really step in and help some of our business partners a lot better, because then you can take a continuing education program and start it, and because it doesn't have to be accredited with our regional accrediting agency, you can start and stop them as you want to, depending on what the job demands are, and you can customize them to what Nick would need or what someone else would need in business. And that to me is a significant step forward for our system.
I wanted to come to Mike on that point. You were a huge advocate for the quarter-cent sales tax, and why is that? Because you're advocating in that capacity for employers that are here and the employers that you want to attract. So can you speak for a moment to why how the quarter-cent sales tax helps you in job recruitment?
Well, just if you look at surrounding us, Henry County, Commonwealth Crossing is a new industrial park. Track 1 there is going to be an advanced technology training center. Danville, Virginia, they have this Haas precision machining program, state of the art. I was at a conference there earlier this week, and they talked about the strength of their community college system in Virginia. The strength is in the southern part of the state. Alamance County, Guilford County, Forsyth County. So you had everybody around us investing in this, and we're behind. I mean, we have to start moving forward, and beyond what the center is, it's going to have to be even more than that. We have tried to schedule an industry bus tour. There was a snow in the spring, and then Florence, and then Michael got us. So I thought when we scheduled it in the fall, this would be great, but no problem. And then 2 hurricanes came. But we wanted to bring teachers in to learn about industry, what's there, because a lot of them commute in from Guilford County, other counties, and they don't know what's local. There was a young man who worked for Gildan. Unfortunately, doesn't work there anymore. But he was a young fella, Edgar Robertson. Our plan was to get him into high school, into Moorhead High School, to get younger people that can act as mentors to kids to say, hey, you can have a good career in Eden. This is what's out there. I think it's going to have to go far, into the elementary schools to be talking about what opportunities are here and talk about the need for, to work ethic. That's a huge issue. And unfortunately, the nuclear family that a lot of us grew up in, that's not there anymore. Not only that, a lot of the families have other issues as well. And we're going to, it's hard to change what's happening in society, but we're going to have to make an effort that way in order to try to be mentors to kids so that they know there's a way out of poverty, there's a way to a better life. So beyond, and then you get a pipeline of kids to go into this workforce development center, which is extremely important too. We're going to go to Surrey County. They have a new development center, and they've got a pipeline system. So is Danville Community College, to try to find out what did they do to try to imitate some of their procedures as well.
Can I follow up with that?
Sure, absolutely.
Mike mentioned the word pipeline, and that's a critical word. We've as we marketed this quarter-cent sales tax to the county, I talked a lot about the new Center for Workforce Development. I talked about how we can then take continued revenue and upgrade other facilities, improve our technology, all those types of things. But that's not going to guarantee that students are going to show up to our door. And there really is going to have to be a paradigm shift in how we look at things and how we look at the workforce, how we look at jobs. And Mike's right, we're spending a lot more time with middle school kids. We're having middle school kids on our campus to introduce them to what we do, to tour our campus, and they can see some of the things that we try to do. But we've got to do a lot better as society. I'm a product of a 4-year university, but there's been such a push nationally to go to 4-year universities, and not all jobs require it. Not everybody wants it, and so we've got to start. We've got to change how we look at things and say, you can make a good living if you graduate from RCC's machining program, for example. Or if you graduate from nursing or you graduate in criminal justice, there's good jobs out there that don't require 4-year degrees. And so we've got a national issue where student debt has now exceeded credit card debt in our country. That's a major economic issue, if nothing else. But we've got to have a shift in how we look at things to get our kids thinking about career and technical education, because the one thing that I worry about at our college It's about 27% of our student population is either an early college high school student or is a high school student taking college courses, which we call Career and College Promise. So, and then you've got a pretty large, an additional large percentage that's in our college transfer programs. In other words, they're going to go 2 years with us and they're going to transfer out. They're not coming back to work here in most cases. And so I worry about our career and technical education programs that don't have the student enrollment that we need to be able to produce the graduates that can go out and work. And so, and then to be able to start programs on the continuing education side and attract people into those, we've got to do some very intentional things that I can speak to later as we talk that get students thinking of coming to us or a community college and then going to work. And right now, there's a lot of colleges out there that are looking at 35, 36, and 7% of their students being early college and high school kids taking college courses, and that's a large percentage of your enrollment. There's nothing wrong with that, but when your career and technical education programs don't have the enrollment they need to service your county, then those are the things that we worry about.
All right. I want to come back to Mike on your take on the biggest challenge that you face in recruiting business and industry to Eden. What's the biggest challenge?
Well, the first is not having product. I mean, not having buildings, because there's just not. I think I have 100,000 square feet in one building that has two other tenants, and then just one that's coming online now, 380,000 square feet. But we don't have many options for people. Certainly, our location has never been advantageous to us, but that has been helped a lot by I-73 and I-785. I mean, that's been a dramatic change. So I think as time goes on, as those road improvements continue, it'll make it a lot better for us, and certainly working on the whole product issue, because you just have to have something to get people to look at your community.
Are there some more road improvements that are on the horizon that will continue to aid in that?
Yes, and County Commissioner Mark Richardson has really been key, along with Darrell Carter, our city councilman, with the RPO, the Rural Planning Organization, to work on I-785, which will be extended to the exit 153, which is Eden, Reedsville, Yanceyville, and then I-73, which will go up to 311, 130 exit. I mean, Highway 135. So that just makes a huge difference. I mean, the access to the airport is just so much better. I mean, especially you look at Western Rockingham County, I think it's just going to boom, because it's just so much easier to get to the airport. And I think realtors are talking about they're seeing more people move here because you get more house for your money in Rockingham County, and it's just a lot easier to commute. If any of you had the horror of driving on Highway 68 in the last 15 years, you know what that's like. So that's gone. So that's really, as I said, it was never really easy to go east, west, or south out of Rockingham County, and now that's been remedied. So that's helped us a lot.
Okay. Rockingham County and Eden in particular are in a really interesting position in terms of the big mega site push right now, in that you're technically part of the triad as a region, but Eden in particular has a vested interest in the development of the Southern Virginia mega site at Berry Hill in Virginia. So how much of a contender was that site for Toyota Mazda?
Well, they tell us they were number 3, so that has added a lot of credibility to that site. And they continue to develop that. Just had a second company sign a purchase agreement, a $200 million investment. I don't know about the jobs of that, but that's the second company that's done a purchase agreement. The first company has renewed theirs, and they had to pay to do that, so they have an interest. And they're getting a lot more interest in larger spaces, larger lots. They had real problems for about 8 years with the Army Corps of Engineers. They considered it speculative development, so they wouldn't approve a permit for them to clear any property. But now they've got a little bit more agreeable association with them, so I think that they're going to be able to clear bigger spots. But they've had an awful lot of interest of late.
Has the one that signed the $200 million, has that been made public?
Yes, that was back in September. And we're in the process. We're going to provide water and sewer to that park. We ran our sewer line in 2012, and again, because it was stopped, nothing happened. But right now, they're extending our sewer line to the park, and we're in the middle of engineering the water line. That will begin probably next year, and the completion will be May of 2020.
Okay. So has the company been identified, or just the fact that the contract's been signed?
Just the fact that they've signed a purchase agreement.
Okay. So does this mean that you're pulling for Berry Hill to land the big automotive manufacturer, the big aviation, whatever the big mega user is, more so than the Triad?
No, but as I say, if you're not rich, it's good to have a rich friend, and they have a lot of money. They have. I mean, when you look at Pittsylvania County, I mean, they have the Danville Regional Foundation. The way the tobacco money is allocated in Virginia is much different than North Carolina. The Golden Leaf Foundation distributes it among 100 counties. In Virginia, it's distributed amongst the most tobacco-dependent counties, and Pennsylvania County happens to be number one. So they've put about $30 million into that park, and a lot of that has come from the Tobacco Commission. If you drive around Eden, about 30%, 28 to 30% of the employees in any given industry are from Virginia. So we assume that the opposite of that will be true. So when there are companies there, that they will employ people not just from Eden, from Rockingham County, Alamance. So the way we look at it is that park will never be as advantageous as the urban areas, but it's a way to maybe level the playing field a little bit so that we'll have something that's attractive there, and we can benefit from the utility sales as well as the employment, but we certainly, our first allegiance is to North Carolina.
So you would expect to get some benefit if an automotive manufacturer located in Greensboro, Randolph, or the Chatham County mega site, but the impact might be greater here in Eden from the water resource standpoint if it went to Berry Hill?
Yes, if that auto plant would have gone to Berry Hill, it would have made everyone's life much easier.
All right. Okay, very good. I was going to ask you, you mentioned Commonwealth Commons earlier, and that's, again, more relevant to kind of western Rockingham County. Would you expect a similar job creation there would benefit commuters in Rockingham County?
Yeah, I believe the entrance is actually in North Carolina to get into the park, so it's right on the border, and that's 720-acre park, and they've invested about $40 million in that, again, from the Harvest Foundation, which is up in Martinsville. So these foundations can really make a difference. But, yeah, we expect that there would be a huge impact in western Rockingham from that park. They announced their first company a few months ago, right. A glass company. Glass company.
So one of the biggest questions lingering from the closure of Miller Coors was what happens with that site and the hundreds of acres that surround it. So where do things stand right now in trying to market that site?
Well, it closed in September of 2016. We've had several prospects. Jan and I have been through that plant many times. Right now, I can't say much about this, but there are at least 2 prospects, possibly 3, and they're working through that whole process, the due diligence. But the location has been a difficulty. We talked to the broker, and they said about 80% of costs are tied to logistics, so its location did hurt a little bit. But we certainly are encouraged by the prospects who are looking at it now.
Is there a price for what it's on the market for?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is that a hard aspect of marketing it?
That's an unusual situation. Most people, when they want to sell something, they put a price on it. But this is, you have to talk to people at a higher pay grade than me to figure that one out. I don't know what.
Nick, you spoke a little bit about the nature of your facility and it not being kind of the distribution of old that many people may think of. Can you kind of paint us a picture of what automation looks like in your operation?
Yes. I will tell you that it still requires physical manual labor to take boxes off of a container that just backed up from some place in Central America with finished goods on the truck. If we chose to do this, you could replace those jobs probably with automation that would go in and pull things out, but we like to pack our containers tight. And so we maximize, because it's our cost to transport that product from offshore into Eden. So we employ quite a number of people who then take the boxes off the container. But unlike in the days of maybe 10 years or longer ago, you're not then having to pick those up and stack them down and then move them physically from one end of the building to the other. A lot of our automation is now the fact that once the box is unloaded, set on a pallet, they scan it with a handheld RF scanner. All our goods are barcoded at manufacturing and throughout the process. And then another operator at a higher skill set level who's been trained to operate some of our very expensive equipment for putting away. Some of these machines we have cost over $100,000 a piece. Those machines require training and operation and safe practices and so forth. They'll then drive over, pick those pallets up, take them to another location where yet it's a handoff, where another operation will pick up on the other side of the area of the building and take them within these narrow aisle, high bay racks. Our ceilings are 42 feet high, so we store up to 40 feet. And the operators are in a self-enclosed cab. They're tethered in and strapped in, so it's a safe operation. And they're guided by wire within the floor so that somebody isn't a little reckless or feeling a little bit off today and run into one of the racks that are 40 feet tall, full of boxes. So we make sure everything's a very safe environment. So we invest in that sort of technology to make sure that the machine almost guides itself. The driver just says go or stop. The system, our warehouse management system, will direct the operator to pick this pallet up from that location, take it to another location, drop it off. It'll then direct yet another operator to pick that pallet up and move it into a put-away location. And the minute that operator locates that pallet in that location, then the system updates the order entry system and says these goods are now available for sale. And so the key is, again, getting speed to market, is being able to get that product off a container and into a location so that the system recognizes it. And I'm talking about a system that is serving a customer service department, which is headquartered in Barbados. We're a bit of a dispersed company here. We're very global and very unique. We're owned by a company in Canada, and our headquarters for our wholesale division and the retail division is in Barbados, with customer service in Barbados. The manufacturing's in Central America, and the distribution's in the United States, because this is where the market is and this is where we service the market. So our jobs were very dependent upon computer technology, on internet connectivity, on communications, on reliability. And as a result, we interconnect. We're a perfect example of a true global corporation of this time. We have to depend on one another, and we're only as good as the information that we transmit. And so the operators in Eden are the key to making sure that everything that's been invested up to that point in time comes to fruition by putting the proper product into the right location. Because the minute that happens, our system will then say, oh, we now have this product available. We've got this backlog of orders in our system. We're going to allocate one of those boxes or all of those boxes to this customer order. And it could be within the hour. It could be within minutes. Karen Baker's in the audience. She'll be able to tell us. Sometimes she barely gets to put the pallet away, and she'll get an order to go and pull some of that pallet or take pieces of that off, take that down, and reverse that cycle where it goes onto the shipping side. So what I just described for you was a receiving process. Once it goes into the shipping side, we have an even more, I would say, more intricate system of automation involved there. They get a light signal to pick what they need for the order, but it's without being specific to a specific customer order. The system just says we have a need to pull one of these boxes, 3 of those boxes, 2 of these boxes, and with wherever that operator is located, the system is directing that operator in that region or area of the warehouse to pull those boxes. They are then instructed to take it to another location where they scan that box, can acknowledge that they've got it, they place it on a conveyor, and we have over 3.5 miles of automated conveyor in our buildings. Our building is a 1/4 of a mile long, but within the warehouse, we've got over 3 miles worth of conveyor, because placing that box on the conveyor, it now has to go across a scan point, and the scanner is talking to the warehouse management system, which is talking to the ERP order system, and it says, oh yeah, I need you to go to that truck over there, and I need you 3 to go to this truck over here. And so systematically, all this is happening like this. And it then travels a path up to a mezzanine level, which is at the higher level of our operation, height-wise. And we have a $10 million automatic sortation equipment up there on the mezzanine that reads the barcodes of all the boxes that were picked by these various operators throughout the building, and it actually sorts them out into, I know where you belong, I know where you belong, I know where you belong, and it drops those into these various lanes, and it's a 3-stage sorter in that the first sort says you're going to this truck, this warehouse for this customer in Philadelphia. You're going to this warehouse to another customer in Chicago. We process 3 or 4 full tractor trailers at a time, and we turn those trailers within the hour. And every trailer holds 1,200 cases on average of T-shirts, and every case has 6 dozens of T-shirts inside. So, you've got 6,000 to 7,000 dozens worth of product going into a tractor trailer, and we have to turn those every hour. And we're doing this 24 hours a day. So the marvel of this sorter that we had custom built for us is that it takes all these boxes picked by all these people, puts them in the right truck, but then it goes through and sorts and puts them in a sequence so that if you're my customer and you operate that warehouse in Chicago, when a truck backs up from Gildan coming out of Eden, North Carolina, they open that truck up. They've got all of our style 2,000 white smalls together, followed by the white medium, the white large, the white extra large, the white 2X, the white 3X, the white 4X, black, small, medium, large, extra large. It's been collected together and consolidated, which sounds like maybe on the surface not a big deal to you. But when you're being presented over 1,200 boxes per hour, and you're trying to sort through and put them in style, colors, SKU, we call it SKU, stock keeping unit sequence, so that it's easy for the customer. And why do I care about that? It's because that customer on the other end, as soon as they can put that product away, it goes into their warehouse management system, and their customer service can sell it. And I know that when I came to Gildan over 10 years ago, and I knew a lot of these customers because I serviced them with Russell. And I said, what can we do to improve our position? We were already number 1, but I wanted to be a solid number 1 with our wholesale distributors. And they said, well, you sure could make your trucks easier to unload and put away, because it takes us 3 hours to unload your trucks coming out of Eden, because you've got the smalls here and some in the middle of the truck and some in the nose of the truck, and we have to put them aside and we collect them together. And a lot of these distributors are not as sophisticated as we are, and they look at everything human readable instead of barcode. And so we want to see all our 2,000 whites together, and we want to see all our 5,000 oranges together. No problem. Gilded, we've got the wherewithal to do it. We'll make sure that we do it right when we load the truck, thinking about the customer on the other end when they unload the truck. And so I can tell you that we have taken the 3-hour unload, sort, and put away time down to less than 1 hour with all of our wholesale distributors. And that means instead of getting 8 trucks a day potentially put away, we can get 24. So all that does is increase our ability to sell more product. And when we sell more product, we ensure our people in Eden and everywhere else have opportunity to work more. So that's job security.
So let's sink in. Try to imagine doing all that without the automation, without just manually people sorting boxes, reading manually. They couldn't do what they do. They couldn't do it efficiently. They couldn't do it at a price point that would be competitive. So technology is creating.
It's made all the difference. It's made all the difference in the world. I know that back in 2010, and many of you here were, supportive of us to make this expansion. When we did our Phase 3 expansion in 2010, the crown jewel of that was this shipping sorter system, and the county commissioners were unanimous. The city commissioners were almost unanimous, and there was one commissioner who shall remain nameless, who said, because you're talking about you want to add automation, that's a fancy word for robots, and that means you're going to replace jobs. And I said, no, sir, without this automation, we will not grow this business. And that's precisely what has happened, is it's given us the wherewithal, the ability to not only grow it, but to take ourselves to a higher level. We now are shipping, our shipments are what's referred to as in a 6 Sigma level, we're in a 5.5 Sigma level. So we're at 99.995% accurate. And when you're that accurate, you make your customers raving fans. And when they're raving fans, they want to buy your product. And so that's the best way for us to ensure that we will be successful in the future, is by leveraging technology. And we can't do it without internet connectivity. We can't do it without computer technology. And we can't do it without the assistance of automation. There are not enough people out there to do it. And there are not. I did take 6 Sigma black belt training, and I can tell you that as smart as everybody in this room is collectively, we can't throw enough people at it. We will make mistakes. We are not 6 Sigma level accurate.
As individuals, as
human beings, right.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about healthcare, wellness benefits, because those are huge also in workforce retention, attracting workers and so forth. And one of the biggest stories of the past year was the bankruptcy of Moorhead Memorial and then its subsequent alignment with UNC Healthcare. Mike, how important was it for there to be resolution with Moorhead Memorial as you're looking to recruit business and industry?
Well, it was huge. I think if that facility had closed, it would have been devastating for the city. I don't know if we could have recovered. When Nick he's trying to get people to work for him or bring people in management, they want to make sure there's a healthcare facility. So that was a long and arduous process. My wife, not so sensitively, says that I have my old man breakfast every Saturday with Jim Burnett, one of our fellow city councilmen, and he was on the board, and I just watched the stress of him all last year, but luckily it was around November that it was resolved. But it's been a great infusion of energy and investment, and we think it's going to have some good results long term.
Mark, I want to ask the same question of you. How does the resolution impact you as a community college and what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, it's important for us because for us to run a nursing program, a respiratory therapy program, CNA programs, those types of healthcare programs, we've got to have clinical sites, hospital sites where our students can do their clinical rotations for training. Plus, our students are not going to enter those fields if they don't see a place to work. And some students want to stay local. They may not want to go to Greensboro, Winston-Salem, or wherever to work. They want to have some of those local options here. So, yeah, it's very important as we look at trying to expand what we do in healthcare is to have that resolution certainly helped us.
Right. One of the things we talked at length about last year here was that Rockingham County, just if you look at it demographically, statistically, tends to be less healthy than other counties, more chronic illness and so forth. And we talked some, Stokes-Ann will remember that, about what we can do about that. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about benefits, wellness, those types of things as an employer and the difference it can make in attracting workers. Nick, do millennials value benefits the same way other generations do, or does that make it harder to attract the workforce that you need?
I think that millennials, it's just a handy term for young people. I know when I was younger, I guess maybe I didn't value benefits as much as I should have, and I think that's just a natural state to be in. But yes, I think we need to make sure that especially the younger workers understand that there's a true value for the benefits that are offered that go above and beyond your hourly wage rate. I know at Gildan we have a very nice competitive benefits package. We offer Blue Cross and Blue Shield. The company actually, if an employee with the company elects coverage under our group plan, our company subsidizes, I think it's about 80% of the basic plan. So the employee it only costs them about 20% of the plan. I know for the standard plan, which is what I use, Gildan subsidizes at a rate of like 65%. And, we need to make sure as employers that we emphasize that, because I think a lot of people say they need benefits and they know, they do need insurance, but they don't maybe appreciate what the cost is and what the employer portion of that cost is. We also offer a very good dental insurance plan, as well as vision insurance. So from a healthcare standpoint, we very much believe in wellness. We do a little something extra here because I know the value of trying to stay in shape, and so we subsidize half of the local YMCA membership for any of our employees. We do a payroll deduct, and we also cover half the cost of that payroll deduction to encourage our employees to, be active, stay fit, get well. And so we write checks to the Eden YMCA, the Reedsville, Western Rock, Martinsville, Greensboro, wherever they live. We'll subsidize half of their YMCA membership. So we definitely like to emphasize that, and I think that we need to make sure that too often the conversation on the initial hires, on the level one jobs, the people that are coming in without skill or experience, and at that $10 rate, they're really just more concerned with what's my take-home pay. Mm-hmm. And we need to let them know that you've got wellness and you've got benefits. Oh, and another important benefit that we offer is a 401k plan, which the young folks, I know from experience, I didn't start early enough, and I came in right on the tail end of when pension plans went away. And so if you don't start investing for your own retirement and your future, there won't be anything at the other end. So 401ks are critical, and Gildan has a great one, worked through Fidelity, and Gildan will match up to 3% of an employee's contribution, payroll deduct, pre-tax. So there's 6% somebody could put away, and it didn't cost you but 3%. Mm-hmm. And if you start when you're in your 20s, it can make a huge difference. So, yeah, benefits are an important element of the discussion.
Okay. Mike, I think, had mentioned something a little earlier I wanted to revisit, and that was maybe a trend towards people wanting to live here. The roads have improved enough that commuting is more realistic, an easier ride. How is the housing inventory right now in Rockingham County? Is it a help or a hindrance as you look to try to address some of the employer needs as far as workforce?
Before I get to that, I wanted to just also say that concerning wellness, Nick has very graciously donated T-shirts to the Get Fit Eden program, which we did for about 4 years, and just expanded it to Get Fit Rockingham, and that was a good benefit for people. They exercise 3 times a week during the summer. They get a free T-shirt, and then they qualify for prizes. So that would be a lot less effective program if we didn't have the T-shirts. So we appreciate them doing that. I'm sure the realtors in this room could address this a little bit better than me, but I spoke to one yesterday and said that in certain categories, $200,000 to $300,000 ranges, there's a lack of inventory. They said most of the foreclosure inventory has been burned off, but what they're finding is because of the internet, there's a global marketplace. So I talked to someone that they've sold a house to someone from New Jersey, someone from Ohio, someone from Oregon. My wife works at King Chandelier, and someone came in the other day, and they weren't German, but they had lived in Germany, and they just were seeking housing, and they put their finger on a map, and they ended up in Eden. So I think what you're also going to find is, coming from the Northeast, my sister lives in a very nice neighborhood outside of Philadelphia, but her taxes are about $8,000 a year. As the baby boomers retire, I think it's almost unsustainable for a lot of them trying to keep that tax burden. So I think a lot are going to be moving into other areas, and they certainly can get a lot more house here than what they can in the Northeast. So we've heard, especially the market's been good in Western Rockingham, but overall, every realtor I talked to said it's been one of their better years. So that's certainly, and I think the commuting ability is a lot better. The housing market in Greensboro was diminishing, and my wife watches this she's an ex-realtor. She says houses in Greensboro, they're on the market about 24 to 48 hours. That's it. My son lives in Charlotte, and people are on Facebook in Charlotte begging their neighbors to sell their houses. The market's really hot there, but so what that does is trying to find an affordable house in Guilford County may be a little bit tougher than finding one here. So that opens up opportunities.
And this is a question that each of you may be able to speak to, but it's the other part of the equation. If the dollar goes farther in Rockingham County on housing, what about the quality of life? Is quality of life and what you're able to offer as a community in terms of amenities or appeal, can you compete? Can you compete with the larger urban areas?
Well, it's interesting. I was looking at a site location ranking, and quality of life normally didn't rank very high. It was number 3 last year, and I think a lot of that has to do with attracting younger people. I mean, it used to be that golf courses were important. Now they're not even on the list of the top 10. It's trails. Eden just built Matrimony Creek, our second trail. Unfortunately, Michael took a lot of that away. We'll have to rebuild it, but so we're trying to do trails, add different amenities just to make it more attractive for younger people. I know in Madison they have a microbrewery and a distillery going to be opening. In Reedsville there's a microbrewery. We have one slated for Eden as well. So you're going to have those kind of amenities to attract younger people. And then also people that they're now just telecommuting. Someone was telling me a story about RVs that used to be just for older people. Now younger people are doing it, they're going wherever they want. So they may stay 2 weeks in one area, another area, but you have to have amenities for them to come to your community. So it's important.
Very good. I'm going to pause here. It's about 9:15. We've got some more time. We can continue, but I wanted to open it up for questions. Hopefully, as we progressed, maybe a few arose and jotted it down. If you have a question, just kind of raise your hand, and I'll try to get to you, and we can come back to our panelists. If no one's brave enough to ask questions, I have more. But anybody from the audience, anything you're curious about, wanted to ask about? There's one.
This one's for Nick, and I'm not hating. I'm just asking, why are the fibers being sent down to Barbados, wherever it is, and then having to come back here? Is it like an EPA thing, or like problems here, cost of labor?
No, well, it's all about cost of manufacturing. Gildan is a company that was born in the late 80s. So there was no Gildan in the United States before 2000 when we built the distribution centers here. And like I said, I was working for Russell Corporation, which is an old line American company. It was built, started in 1902, right, in Alabama. Unlike the old line companies like Russell and Haynes, where they did everything here and then quickly lost all the jobs offshore, Gildan was born post-NAFTA, okay? So Gildan being a Canadian company, it started with a family-run Canadian business up in Montreal, Canada, and they used to, on a very small scale. They had a vision, they created the company, and they said, we're going to take advantage of NAFTA and the fact that you can manufacture now anywhere in North America. So they initially started with knitting in Canada, and then they set up the cutting and sewing they chose Honduras. Honduras is where most of our product is cut and sewn. We do some in Costa Rica and some in Dominican Republic and some in Haiti. But it's all in the Caribbean basin in terms of knitting, dye, finish, cut, and sew. None of that is in the U.S. And then it was bringing it back to the U.S. for distribution. Originally, before Eden, it was Miami, and then in 2000 they built Eden when I was with the other company. So why is it today? I can tell you from a guy who grew up starting in the 70s with American manufacturing, American knitting, dyeing, finishing, cutting, and sewing, and having to watch and be part of the NAFTA transition where Russell and Haynes, we lost jobs that went overseas. Gildan was born after that. So Gildan really never had an option to manufacture goods here because all the competition was making product offshore. And so there's no way we are selling our T-shirt on average for maybe $1.50. And there's no way you can knit, dye, finish, cut, and sew a product, unfortunately, in the United States and be able to do that and be profitable. So Gildan, our story is all about the fact that our distribution and our sales team are in the United States to service the North American market, but our manufacturing is offshore to leverage the global skills and costs. And the operations down there, Gildan has over, is it 30,000 employees, Orlando? We have 30,000 employees in Honduras. And those people are blessed. If you've ever been to Honduras in any reason, you go in, first of all, the manufacturing is done in these manufacturing zones that are protected by government soldiers and so forth. And we provide transportation to the people because they don't have school buses. Our old school buses you'll see down there picking people up and bringing them into work. They get uniforms to work. They get meals, that kind of thing. We have doctors on site. These are not sweatshops. These are very nice operations. And if you have a job sewing for Gildan in Honduras, you're envied because a lot of the people outside of those walls of that manufacturing zone are shoeless, are living in lean-tos, and don't have running water. And we see them bathing in the river. So it's a difficult situation, but that's the realities of manufacturing in countries like Honduras, whereas we're actually producing steady wages and good jobs and so forth. They're making fine product of American cotton, American yarn, but it has to be cut, sewn, and manufactured offshore to keep the cost structure aligned and be competitive. Then we bring it back into the U.S. for warehousing distribution.
One of the things Nick mentioned earlier was, the 500 jobs that he has in the Gildan facilities, as well as another 100 temp workers who are aiming to become Gildan workers. But I wanted to ask you the ripple effect. There's a trucking company, I believe, that serves you here.
Yeah.
That started up essentially to meet your needs.
That's right. Carolina Freightways in Eden now has over 120 employees of their own, and they are exclusively in business to service the Gildan business. We started out Butch Mabe's company. He hauls a good percentage of our loads as well. But Carolina Freightways was born out of the growth that we experienced while here in Eden. And we ship 3,600 53-foot tractor-trailer loads every year in and out to customers from the Eden facility, and we need truckers.
Right. I want to come back. So again, your range, before we get into salary type positions, but in kind of hourly wages, ranges from, say, $10 per hour for the more manual labor, loading,
right,
so forth. On the $20 end, those would be what types of jobs?
Those are going to be your technical jobs, the technicians, the people who are trained in both in pneumatics and mechanics, as well as electronics. So keeping those computerized sorters operating, and that would be our highest level technician jobs. And we also have people in that hourly wage range that are working in our foreign trade zone, administering our shipments in and out of the foreign trade zone. Eden is an FTZ, or a foreign trade zone, which means we have satisfied the Department of Homeland and U.S. Customs, Border, and Patrol requirements that they know the accuracy of the contents inside the boxes as well as the containers. And when our containers come in to the ports of entry, they do not have to be opened up and audited. They go directly onto the truck, and the truck goes to Charlotte, and then the truck goes to either Charleston or Eden, depending on our distribution center. And then we have to, every day we report to the Homeland Security. We give them a reconciliation of our inventory every morning, and that's done on computer programs that say, here's what we received yesterday, here's what we shipped yesterday, here's our balance, and then we go and we constantly do cycle counts to audit that. So it's a level of accuracy that has to be ensured.
I wanted to connect the dots between Gildan and your workforce needs and Dr. Kinlaw with again, the tax monies. So we talked some about the Workforce Development Center. What are some other areas that investment, that those revenues might go towards, that might help meet Nick's need or Mike's needs?
Well, one of the biggest investments we will make immediately is to upgrade our technology capabilities on campus, and that means the type of equipment that we train our students on. It could be a mannequin in nursing, but it could be a CNC machine. It could be it could be a welding machine, whatever. But we need a major upgrade in our technology capabilities on our campus. I cannot have a computer lab that has 5-year-old computers and put that in front of students. I can't do that. And so I have to be able to train our students on the very best equipment that we can possibly put in front of them. And that's going to be applicable to just about any job that's out there, because we are such an automated society. So that will be a major piece of what we do, and we'll start that immediately. Of course, I've already mentioned the major investment, but we will go back into we have 2 old facilities that currently house the programs that we will move to our new facility. We'll go back into those facilities and start upgrading, start renovating them for different types of programs. I'd like to bring back some of the construction trade programs that I hear quite a bit that we have a need, where it's plumbing, electrician, those types of programs that we would like to recreate on our campus. We've got some other programs that we need to move on campus and put them in a different location to give them a better chance to prosper and to be successful. So we'll do some of that as well. We're also taking a look, and this is one of the things that we talked about when we marketed the quarter cent sales tax. we did not have our own driving pad here at our college. In other words, if we wanted for our basic law enforcement training for all our emergency services vehicles that we need to train for, we did not have our own driving pad. So we're using Guilford Tech, and they've been very gracious to let us use it, but we need our own. And so we're looking at that. And so there's going to be things that may come up 5 years from now that we don't even know what they are right now, 10 years from now, but it's having the funding to be able to use to do that. So that's just some of the things that we're talking about that need upgrades. So just new programs that we'd like to start. It's an expanding programs that we have. We also have some NC Connect bond funds. Of course, the state bond passed back in 2015. And we'll use those funds as well to couple with the quarter-cent sales tax. We've got a science building where our science labs need to be upgraded because they service our healthcare programs, and so we'll need to do that. So there's a lot of things. Plus, we can work with individual businesses and companies. If we need to do some customized things, we'll have some revenue to do that. In fact, my staff and our administrative staff's meeting with Dr. Shotwell's administrative staff next week. We're going to brainstorm about some things we can do collectively because the college and the public schools have to work hand in hand to be able to produce the type of training that's needed to put people to work. So we're going to have a brainstorming session, and some of that quarter-cent sales tax can help us to be able to partner with others on different types of initiatives that I may not even know what they are right now, but just being able to have that as leverage certainly helps.
Right. I wanted to, so the bond referendum, it passed, which was contrary to other bond referendums in the county, but you still had 44% of people oppose it, which is not a small number. Will that contingent ever be convinced that it was worth it?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, that's what's in our lap now is to take the funds and to use them wisely to make a difference in the county. And we don't, the money comes to us, but the money we need to use that money to partner with different entities across the county to help the whole county, not just help Rockingham Community College, but I certainly will hope that we get 5 years down the road that 45% that was against it begins to realize that, maybe this is a good investment. But I think some you're not going to convince one way or the other. But the way I look at it is 55% is a majority, and that's we're thankful that it passed, and we're going to move it forward and do the very, very, very best we can to invest it wisely to help the county. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? We have one right here.
Mark, I was going to suggest, I live down in Forsyth County, and we're in an industry called Construction Industry Council. I work for Sand Corporation. And the community college, Forsyth Tech, has formulated a council they call Construction Industry Council. And it pulls the college, the school system, and then the employers in the community into one meeting, right? And then every year they hold a career fair. Okay, and then those trade kids that are in those schools come to that career fair where those contractors are. And then the college works there. They have a booth set up there. And on the back shows all those different areas they can go in to study. And then those kids kind of float from the different industries or contractors, and then they float back to the college to try to figure out how it correlates. And they do it at the Lawrence Joel Coliseum in Winston, in one of their little special education type buildings. But I just thought that may be something that could help.
Sure.
The director for construction in the county is the chairman.
Okay.
Sam is vice chair.
Okay.
So if I can help spot
Okay,
that,
thank you.
develop that,
Okay. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Okay. We're coming up on 9:30, so we're almost out of time. I'd like to, again, applaud everyone here who came here today, who's interested and engaged in being part of moving Rockingham County forward. So thank you all for being here. Didn't our panelists do a great job? Please give them a round of applause. And I hope you'll each join me in thanking our partners, Rockingham Community College for, again, providing the AV, Rockingham County Center for Economic Development for hosting us and making this possible, and, of course, our sponsor, Cone Health. Without them, without these partners, without the sponsors, we couldn't do these types of conversations. So very much appreciate all of their involvement in making this happen. Please give them all a round of applause. And with that, I wish you a happy Friday.